Good morning, everyone. Good Tavach. Hope you had a wonderful Shabbos. Today we're starting Mishnayos Peah, the second Masechta Shas. We finished Brachos last week. Now we're on to number 2 out of 63, and we're on our way through Shas Mishnayos. Today's shir is sponsored Eli Nishma Sarah Nachman Simcha Kayin, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsa Brachosar Bashmuel Leib Binah Moshe ben Yosef, and a refuah shlema for Ada Sarah Bas Leah. May the neshamas have a Leah, may the cholim have a refuah shlema. Amen. Mishnah is Peah. Peah literally means the corner, and this is the beginning of the agricultural laws and the different matanas that need to be given from the fields. When a farmer has a field, they have to give certain gifts to the poor and to the Leviim and to the Kohanim. And Peah, which literally means a corner, but this Masechta is really going to talk about 6 different matnasaniyim, which include Peah, which is the corner, Leket, Shicha, Heret, Olalos, and Maisaran. We're going to discuss all of them throughout the Masechta. But before we get into the Masechta itself, it's important to read the psukim that come along with this. And the first pasuk is in Parshas Kedoshim, Perek Yutes, pasuk psukim Tes and Yud, Uvekutrechem es ktsir arsechem, lo sechal lepeas sadecha, leksor, leka kirsecha lo selakit. Translated by ArtScroll. When you reap the harvest of the land, you shall not complete your reaping to the corner of your field, and the gleanings of your harvest you shall not take. Plus, good. The karmechalos olel uperek karmechalos salakit ani v'lager tazo asam ani Hashem Elokecha. You shall not pick the undeveloped twigs of your vineyard, and the fallen fruit of your vineyard you shall not gather. For the poor and for the convert shall you leave them. I am Hashem your God. Those are the 2 psukim in Parshas Kedoshim. Furthermore, there's another pasuk regarding Shicha in yesterday's parsha, which we're also going to be discussing. So I'm going to read it here now. Perek Sefer Devarim Perek Chav Daled pasuk Yutes. This is in yesterday's parsha. Ki siksor k'tzircha b'sadecha v'shachachta omer b'sadeh lo sashuv l'kachtu lager leyasam u'lamana yiyeh l'man yirchecha Hashem Elokecha b'chol ma'aseh yedech. Translation is, when you reap your harvest in your field, and you forgot a bundle in the field, you shall not turn back to take it. It shall be for the convert, the orphan, and the widow, so that Hashem, your God, will bless you in all your handiwork. These are the psukim that are addressed by Peah. Interesting that the psukim in Kedoshim mention only the ani and the ger, the poor man and the convert, whereas the pasuk in Devarim also includes the almana, which was not in the previous psukim. So why that is, I haven't figured out yet, but interesting to note that fact. Okay, so what is Peah? Peah is the end of the field. It's a corner, and there's a machlokas among the Tanaim whether Peah may be left at the end of the field, or if you can leave it anywhere, any section within the field, as long as it designates a certain section as for Peah. We're gonna discuss that today as we get into this. Leket is forgotten stalks. When you have when when everything is being harvested and you forget a couple of stalks, it, if it's a couple, then you can't pick them up. If it's a larger amount, then you can. If one or two stalks fall, then they must be left lineum. If three or more stalks fall at once, then they are not lekid and they can be picked up by the farmer. Shikha is similar to lekid, except that lekid is referring to individual stalks and shikha is bundles. It's like uh, it's larger bundles. So if he forgot one or two of them, then they go to the poor man, and if he forgot more than three or more, then he can pick him up. Perek refers specifically to the vineyard, um, and and that's the individual grapes that fall when the clusters are being picked. It's like one or two. One or two grapes fall, then they belong to the Indian. If there's three or more, then they are not Perek. Okay, all of those is also only from the vineyard, and that's larger clusters. So you have the shikha by the grain, and you have the olalos by the vineyard, and you leket by the grain, and you have peret by the vineyard. So they sort of match up, but they're called different things for different purposes. And then you have Meiser Ani. Meiser Ani are is after you gave for Truma and Meiser Rishon, which is Truma is like 2%, and the Meiser Rishon is 10%. Then you have Meiser Ani, which rotates with Meiser Sheni. Meiser Ani is in years 3 and 5, I believe, and Meiser Sheni is in years one to sorry. Meiser Sheni is in years 1, 2, 4, and 5, and Meiser Ani is in years 3 and 6 of the Shemitah cycle. Okay, so let's go. So the first Mishnah is very familiar to everyone. We say it every day in davening. There are These are the things that have no limit. According to the Torah, these things have no limit, not the minimum and not the maximum. They are Peah, that's Peah, which is leaving uh, a, a Peah for the poor at the end of the field. Bikurim, and the first fruits that go to the Beis Hamikdash around Shavuos time, between Shavuos and Sukkot. We have a Ayom, and there's a mitzvah of Re'iyah on the Shlosh Galim. So by Re'iyah, you could decide to either stay there like the whole week of Yom Tif, or you can decide I'm showing up, I'm dropping off my korban, and Zagazut, and that's fine. But there's no sheer to those according to the Torah. Doing kindness. You could be cheap on your kindness as long as you do something, and you could be very forthcoming with your kindness. And again, there's no sheer according to the Torah. Talmud Torah, and learning Torah has no sheer. These are all according to the Torah. And then we continue with the next part of the Mishnah. Elu devarim she'adam ocha perusim b'yolam hazeh ve'keren kayemes lo b'yolam haba. These are the things that a person eats their fruit in this world, meaning that you can benefit from them here in this world, while the principle, like the essence, you get the dividends for these things in this world, but the principle that the bulk of the schar remains for him intact for Olam Haba. So even though he can benefit from he benefits from these mitzvahs in this world because keeping them creates peace among people. That's a good thing. So you can do that, but that does not reduce at all your share in the world to come for doing these things. And what's on this list? Kibbud av aim, honoring your mother and father, doing kindness, and bringing about peace between one and another. The Talmud Torah connected Kulam, and learning Torah is equal to them all. So in these two parts of the Mishnah, there's two things that are on both sides of the list. On the first, on which, and that is Gemilas Gomel Chesed and Talmud Torah, and um, and that's interesting to note. First of all, Talmud Torah Kulam is really something because at any free moment of your day or night, you should be learning Torah. Why? Because if Talmud Torah is Kulam, means that for every word, I think the post can bring down that for every word of Torah that's learned, it's equal to the Torah mitzvahs combined. So 613 mitzvahs are equal to one word of Torah. And if you're learning a daf Gemara, or you're learning Perek Mishnayos, you're learning for an hour, and each word of Torah is connected 613 mitzvahs. I mean, those numbers rank up pretty significantly and have a tremendous amount of value. I mean, do the math. How many words there in a daf Gemara? 2, 3, 4, 500 words of daf Gemara, especially by Hurrius now. Times each word by 613, and the numbers are just skyrocketing. Okay. Interesting to note that if you look in your siddur, you will see that the Eil Devarim that we said in the morning has extra words than what is written in this Mishnah. Talking about the Bayis Hameis and a few other things. They're not in this Mishnah. They were added in afterwards. Mishnah Beis. Okay, so we discussed that according to the Torah, there's no shear on Peah. Ein pochasin, but the Rabbanan, they put in a shear. Ein pochasin, the Peah mishishin. You cannot give less than 1/60th of the crop as Peah. You have a nice big field, you must leave at least 1/60th for Peah. And the Peah shear, even though we said in the previous verse that Peah has no shear, that Peah has no limit. Hakol the fee godel hasadeh, or the fee rov ha'aniyim, or the fee rov ha'anam. That statement was al pi Torah, but sometimes 60th is just not enough. 60th is not enough, and he should live more. All according to the size of the field and according to the number of people. Because if there's a bigger field and there's more poor people who depend on the Peah, then he should leave more. It should be a chacham and leave maybe 2 parts of 60 or 3 parts of 60. So the fee rov hanova, and it really depends on how generous he is. If he's more generous, then he will leave more. And if he's less generous, then he will leave less. But that's all subjective. Noishnin, Mishnah Gimel, Noishnin Peah B'tchias Hasada U'Miyamsa. So the farmer starts off cutting his field, and he starts at the beginning, wherever the beginning is. And although Peah means a corner, that's what it means. But it's not dafka that he has to give it in the corner. He could give it at the beginning, he could give it in the middle, he could give it at the end. So he can leave over the Peah even at the beginning of the field. It was not limited to the specific end. Rabbi Shimon, maybe Shimon says, he can leave off anywhere in the middle, but as long as he also leaves the corner in the end as is required. You always leave more. And the third opinion of Yehuda Omer, Im Shir Telach Echad, Yehuda says, if he left one stalk standing for at the end of the field, so he can attach to it what he has left at the beginning or in the middle as space. He could have to do the rest, as long as he left something in the corner, then he could be mashlim it with the other section. As long as it adds up to a 60th. The in lav, Eno Nostin Elam Mishum Hefker. But if he did not leave at least one stalk as Peah at the very end, then what he left earlier in the field is not Peah. He may leave it only as Hefker. Doesn't count as Peah, but it counts as Hefker. Moving on to Mishnah Daled. Klal Amr Bepeah. There's a rule, but there's a rule regarding by Peah. There are actually 5 conditions that need to be met in order to be for the field for the crop to be obligated and Peah. Number 1, that it has to be food that is normally eaten by people. So if you have a crop that is eaten by animals or it's used in other ways other than eating, then it's not chayiv. If the crop is used for like rubbing on your skin or for a cream or a smear, then that's not chayiv and payah. The nishmar, and it's protected. It's privately owned, and the owner protects it. That excludes crops that are not that are growing wild without an owner. If you're in Florida, not Florida. There's only regarding Eretz Yisrael. But if you're in Eretz Yisrael and you come across like a place, like a field that's growing wild without any owner, then then you don't take pay on it because no one owns it. The Gidula in Haaretz, and it grows from the ground. So which includes trees and things, Boy Peah Eitz and Boy Peah Dama, because ultimately we said in brachos that Eitz also grows from the ground. But this excludes things like mushrooms that grow above the ground. So you wouldn't give peah on mushrooms or anything similar to that, which you would make a shahakal on. And it is gathered at once, meaning that the whole crop is harvested at one time. And unlike figs, which are picked at different times, then that wouldn't be chayiv in peah. Umachniso lekiyah, and is brought in for storage. Okay, that the food can last in a storehouse, which excludes many vegetables which cannot be stored because they're going to spoil. How long is the shelf life for the average vegetable? Not too long. Potatoes might be something different. And we had tavua. So all those 5 conditions, if you have something that meets those 5 conditions, even if it's not on the original list, if it meets those 5 conditions, chayav b'peah, you're obligated in peah. Hatavua v'kidneyas, and this generally includes all types of grains and beans, and they are obligated in peah if they meet all 5 conditions. Mishnah Hey ube'ilan, and among the trees, ha'ug v'charuvim, sumac and carobs, ha'gozim v'ashkedim, walnuts and almonds, ha'gefanim v'harimonim, grapevines and pomegranates. And some you have 6. V'ha'zeisim v'hatamarim, and olives and dates, chayavim v'peah. They are obligated in peah. These 8 trees are simply examples of things that have the 5 conditions. So if you have any other tree that also has those 5 conditions, then they're obligated in peah as well. As we mentioned before, that the mitzvah peah is to leave some of the crop standing for the poor. So even if a person harvests his entire crop without leaving peah, he must still separate peah from that was harvested. Now we're going to go on to Mishnah Vav. The Yolam who noise mishum peah upata min hamaisus ad shimareach. He can always give produce as peah even after it has been even after he harvested his entire crop. He forgot to leave the peah in the field, so he harvests the entire crop, and and it is exempt from Meiser until he smooths the pile of produce. So there are different steps involved with harvesting. But after it was harvested, it was processed to separate the stalks and the inedible parts, and then it was put into a big pile where it was smoothed over. That's called himareach. Once it is smoothed over, then that begins the chiyuv to take meiser, and they cannot eat anything until they take the meiser. But before it's smoothed over, before those piles are smoothed over, then he can still take Peah. And there are other, and this Mishnah, Mr. Vod, is going to talk about the different things that can be done before the piles are smoothed over, before the Mareach is completed. So, so again, first he said that the first thing that he can do before smooth over is giving Peah. The second one, the nose de mishum hefker upatam min hamaisus ad shimareach, and he can give away the unmeiser produce as hefker, and it's putter from meiser until he smooths it over. Umachil behema ulechaya ofos, and he can feed a full feeding of produce to an animal or to a wild beast. A domesticated animal is the behema, el chaya are the beasts of the field, and to birds, and he's exempt from meiser until he's smooth off the pile. Once he smooths off the pile, then he can't even feed it to animals. Before he smooths out the pile, then he can even feed his animals. And no tell min hagorin is a reya upatim min hamaisus ad shimarech, and he may take the unmeiser produce from the threshing floor, which is where they cut the produce and it's pounded to separate the good from the bad. And that's where it be found before it's piled up and smooth. That's like the place that they do it. And he can plant it, and he's exempt from meiser until he smooths the pile. So anything he does with this pretty much before he completes the harvest with the smoothing of the pile, he's putter, he's exempt from meiser until that time. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. That's according to Rabbi Akiva. Fine. Kohen. Now we're going to talk two other laws that are affected by the smoothing of the pile. Kohen or Levi shalachas hadarim. If a Kohen or Levi bought the unmeiser produce on the threshing floor, hameiser shalahem ad shimarech, they can keep the meiser that are separated from it until it is smoothed out. But if, however, he bought the unmeiser produce after the pile is smooth, he cannot keep the meiser from the person himself. He must give them to another Kohen or Levi. If someone is makdish the produce to the Beis Hamikdash, he consecrates and said, this produce belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, and then he redeems it. He assesses the value of the produce, and he redeems it with money. He gives the money to the Beis Hamikdash and the produce he can use. So once he's pulled the hektish, then he's obligated to give meiser until the gabbai of the Beis Hamikdash, the treasurer, smooths off the pile. But if it was hektish when the pile was smooth, then even if it was put afterwards, is putter from meiser. Whenever we talk about meiser, meiser is a general category heading for for all the matanos. The Truma and Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni and Meiser Ani, it all falls under the category of Meiser in general. And that is the end of Perek Aleph. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. for Perek Beis. Please remember to complete your raffle form and get it in today, because tomorrow morning is the raffle during this year. Have a wonderful day, people. Good night.
Yeah.